Carr with Fuse Empire, and this is the Barbara Talks Business Podcast. And today I am super excited about the guest that I have here with me. And then I'm going to introduce her in just a teeny tiny moment. I first just want to remind all of our viewers that if you're watching us live, we are in two places right now. We are live on YouTube. You can Google Fuse Empire to find that, or you might be watching us right now in our private Facebook group called Tools, Tips, and Training to Grow Your Business. No matter where you're watching us live today, if you have questions while we are interviewing our guest, you may ask them in the chat and they can be answered today while we're live. If you're watching this or listening to it on the podcast channels afterwards, when it's not live, you will have contact information at the end of this show for the guest so that you can reach out with any further questions, get to know her, hire her, whatever makes sense for your business. But either way today, you're going to get some great information and you'll learn a lot. So make sure that you have pen and paper to take notes because this is good stuff. So today I am talking with Janice Means. Janice is the president of Marketing with JR. And Janice spent years in corporate IT, interwoven with various marketing stints. She brings her Fortune 50 experience to you with a focus on marketing strategies. She is an innovative problem solver that loves to use her experience and her knowledge and her forward thinking to help you to market your business with uncanny knack to spot holes in your marketing, in your strategy, your plans, and your tactics. Janice has a bachelor's of arts in mathematics from Blackburn College and master's in business administration from Governor State University. And Janice and I met several years ago, actually through business networking. This is not the first time that I've had Janice on my stage to present to my people because I think she's phenomenal and I love what she brings to the table. And I will have Janice again and again and again because she's always got great topics to share. And so the topic that we're doing today is going to be talking about your Google and Yelp listings and reviews. And it's not all Janice talks about. She's a plethora of knowledge. So if you love what you hear today, make sure you reach out to her for other business topics as well. But also stay tuned for in the future. Like I said, I'll have her again and again because she's phenomenal. So with that said, let's welcome Janice. Janice, hello. Tell us a little bit about you that we did not learn about in your bio.
So let's see. Well, thank you, Barbara. So one of the B&I questions is, what is something that nobody knows about you that you'd like them to know? And I thought about this the other day when I shared, I actually shared it with your announcement. I just was published as a comment of an article on marketing. And I said, oh, I'm almost famous. And then I realized I have been on the cover of the Chicago Tribune. And that's a huge deal. I mean, I saw it and I practically screamed when it happened because I knew the article was going to publish, but I had no idea they're going to put me on the cover of the Chicago Tribune. So I can say I'm almost famous.
Well, Janice, in my book, you are famous.
So there we go.
Good. And Janice, tell us about your family.
So I'm married. Got married just before you, I think, a year and a half ago now. See, time flies when you're having fun. And I have an adult son who's 30 and an adult daughter, 25, who is in the Air Force.
Okay. And you have been doing business and marketing for a long time, right?
Yes. You know, like the intro said, people say Fortune 50. Well, I used to work at a small little company you might know called IBM. So I have kind of a lot of a business experience, a lot of IT experience. I went out on my own in 2012. So it's been, 9 years, going on 9 years that I've been doing entrepreneurial type activities, focused on marketing. For a long time, I focused on offline. And our friend COVID caused me to say, okay, you know what, let me look at online. I've always done a lot of these online strategies, but I didn't want to get paid to do it. I was like, I would help a friend free while I was helping them with something else and make sure their online complemented their offline. Well, since we all had to go digital, it was like, I guess I have to go digital too. It's like, okay, since I know these things, let me just help people with, I did them in my own business for myself and helped friends. Let me help others now. Don't make the same mistakes I did.
That's interesting how so many people do kind of get put into what their calling is by accident sometimes. A similar thing happened to me. Like I started off just as a virtual assistant, and then people started asking me to do these other things, and I'm like, well, I did it for my own business, so yeah, I could do that for yours. And before I knew it, I was a marketing expert, a social media expert, all these different things. And you get so good at doing things and so passionate about them, and people see that. They see that, hey, you did this for yourself and you did an awesome job at it. So Janice, can you do it for me too? And so that's really cool how that happens, sometimes by accident. So with, you guys could probably see behind Janice, she's got an awesome virtual background up there. And so common sense marketing with extraordinary results. I love that. Where did that come from? How do you think of that?
So the tagline just came up with something I was doing. Oh, I know what it was. I was doing a presentation on 5 things that you could do to make your it easier to do business with you. And they're like, oh, these things are so common sense. Why don't I do them? And it does make a big difference on the results. So I just put it together, and that's my tagline, been my tagline now. I've had that tagline for about 5 years.
Oh, I like that. I do like it. And then also on the other side, you have managing your online presence and reputation management. And that's what we're talking about here today. So I'm so excited. So I have a few questions. This is very casual conversation, and we'll go wherever the conversation leads us. But the first question I have is, with Google listings and Yelp listings, because I know those are the 2 big places where most businesses do get their reviews and that people find them, right, with searches. So where do those come from? The listing itself and the reviews that are on them?
So there's more than one answer. So depending on how long your business has been around, and if you're a brick or mortar, or if you're more of a virtual business, will depend where it came from. If you've been around for a while, Google and Yelp may have created one on your behalf. And if they've created on your behalf, then it exists out there with data that they've cloned from your website or a Facebook entry or somewhere, some other listing that they found out about you. And that was when they were early on building that platform. They were saying, okay, we need to collect data to prove that this is a tool that makes sense. And over the years, you might remember Google Plus. So you could have a Google Plus business page.
Right.
And then they started owning the pages and recreating them. And then you had 2 pages because they created one and you created one, and you had to merge them and do all that stuff.
Yep.
So if you've been around through any of those iterations, Google may have created one for you, and you need to claim it. Same thing happened with Yelp. I don't know all the iterations with Yelp. I personally am not a Yelp fan, but if you're in certain industries, you have to have a Yelp. Like if you're a restaurant, you have to have a Yelp entry. You just have to. If you're in some other industries and they haven't created one, I'd say keep your head under the radar and try not to have a Yelp entry. and the reason for that is Yelp doesn't show you every review that was given. They have a weird algorithm that has changed over time. And you can have good reviews that they don't recommend and bad reviews that they recommend. And they'll tell you that they don't display the different reviews based on whether you pay for their service or not. But my personal experience has been the ones that go in the not recommended area do change when you pay for them, even though they'll insist they don't. They used to only put reviews in the not recommended if the person had only ever written 1 review. And that kind of made sense. It's kind of like, that person's only one review. We don't know if they're just reviewing because they're your friend or not. That makes sense. But that's no longer true. And I haven't quite figured out the ins and outs of how they decide now. So I'm kind of like, if you're in an industry that has to be in Yelp, let's do it and do it positively. And how do we help you do that better? But if you get away with it, ignore it.
Okay. So somebody Googles themselves and they notice that there is a Google listing or a Yelp listing for their business. And they're like, whoa, what is that? I never created that. How do they claim that for their own?
So usually what will happen is on a Google listing, it'll come up on the right hand side. A lot of times it looks like a little mini website. It's not. That's what your Google listing is. It'll have a little thing on it that says, do you own this business? And so you can click on that. It'll come up and it'll walk you through a couple of steps. If nobody has claimed it, then it'll walk you through claiming it. To validate you're really the business owner, they will send a postcard to the address that business is listed to actually claim it. So they want to make sure that the physical address associated with that business listing really exists. I've heard experiences where some restaurants did not claim their listing on Google nor Yelp, and somebody else came along and claimed it. And then it was going to the pizza store, the block over to get all the carry-out orders.
Oh,
There's ways. So if you do own a restaurant or a physical location, you want to definitely make sure, because those are usually the locations that show up without you having to create it. So if you have a physical location, check to see if one exists, make sure you get it claimed and sent to you to do it. If you're a newer business, if you have a new brick and mortar since COVID started, then you can proactively create a Google listing or a Yelp listing. To create a Google listing, you do at business.google.com. You put in the business name, it'll search for it. If it finds something that it thinks the entry, it'll show it to you and it'll come up and say, do you own this business? Do you want to claim this listing and walk you through it? If it doesn't find anything, it'll ask you a few more questions and say, do you want to create one? And you can walk through the steps. A big tip, if you're going to create your own Google My Business listing, is fill out all the information before you say verify. Because once you click verify and they initiate the postcard process, you can't change any of the data until that postcard process happens. And if you live in Chicago like I do, and your mail works like I do, who knows when that postcard is going to show up? So you want that Google listing to be as accurate as possible, because you don't want to touch it between the time you initiate that process and it happens. Once it happens and you come and you follow the directions to verify the listing, then you can go ahead and make additional changes and what have you. Usually the card goes out within a couple of days, but again, like you said, depending on where you live and your mail service and what have you, it may take you a little longer to get it. But okay. Both processes walk you through it. But it's like, if you can't find it, do you want me to create you one, what have you? And the steps are very basic. Some of the new things they've added to Google My Business listing, you can say, I'm a women-owned business. You don't have to be certified to say you're a woman-owned business. You can just say, I'm a women-owned business. There's another button for certification. I'm a Black-owned business. I'm a minority-owned business. There's different attributes now because those have become things that people care about. So now you want to make sure you look at all the attributes and walk through all the options, because some of them are in new places that weren't there like 6 months ago. When I first set my entry up 4 or 5 years ago, there weren't nearly as many attributes as they are now. And I actually ended up having to re-verify my business in the middle of last year. I'm like, I verified this. I don't know where it went. But it's because so many options had changed and I hadn't touched the listing in a while. When I got serious about doing it, I had more things to do and I had to re-verify.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. So why is having a Google listing and claiming your Google listing so important for a business owner?
So if you don't know the exact name of your business and people are trying to find your website, a Google My Business listing helps connect the right URL with the right business. For example, when I was doing some auditing on some businesses, I did a lot of speakers and a lot of different things, and they had common titles as their thing, like the honest professor or the gifted shaman or something like that. Words that are very common that you would Google, but I didn't know if it was the gifted shaman or, a honest professor or what have you. So if you don't know, you can't find their website if they don't have that Google My Business listing. The Google My Business listing is going, oh, this is the website that goes with those words. It might be 4 or 5 pages down in listings, and people usually within 1 or 2 pages, if they don't find it in the first 2 pages, like it's not there. Mm-hmm. So for SEO purposes, finding the website, that's a reason to want it. It's a place that people go to look for reviews. So if you don't have your website claimed, people still can write reviews about you, but you can't respond. And, you get 10, 20 great reviews and everything's good. And you get that person who either doesn't like you or has the wrong location or whatever and writes a really nasty review about you. If you don't have that claimed, you can't respond. And responding to a negative review can bring you as much or more business than having all positive reviews. How you respond and observe that negative review can make somebody see you as more human and say, okay, yes, they're really good. However, when they have a mistake, they're willing to work with it.
Okay, good. Now, if you have a negative review, can you delete the review?
No. Sorry.
So what is your recommendation to responding to a negative review?
So depending on what they've done, we'll take a couple of scenarios. So sometimes people just have the wrong location. They have the wrong business. They didn't know, and they start writing a review. It's easy to say is, I'm sorry you had this experience. Could you please check your records? Because we don't have a record of you in our system. So that doesn't say, hey, you're wrong and go away because you got the wrong business. It's say, we don't have a record of you. It's a very non-confrontational response. And people are like, they at least responded, or you could do that. If you know that they're your customer and you did something wrong, you always say, you could say, please reach out to us and let us look at solving this problem for you. Because most people, if they've had a bad experience with a customer, they want to fix it and make it better. They don't want somebody unhappy, because we all probably have heard a person with a bad experience tells 10 people, a person with a good experience tells 2.
Right.
So if you can turn that bad experience into a positive, then you've actually told more people, because the people they complained about said, hey, whatever happened, let's say they fixed the solution. They've reached out to us and they've done that. And if it's a situation you can't really talk about, you can say, we've private messaged you to please come in and let us help you resolve that period. And then once it's resolved, you could go back in and add another comment saying, I hope the resolution was to your satisfaction. And keep it. You don't want to go on the attack. If you do have somebody that is just out to get you, and I've run into this a couple of times, that there was a plumber and the guy that was mad at them wrote a bad review on the Better Business Bureau, on Yelp, on Google, and like 3 or 4 other platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and there's all these bad reviews, and it's all the exact same wording.
Oh my goodness.
The same guy, the same problem, the same situation is, you can just say, I'm sorry you had this experience. We do our best. We're sorry we weren't able to meet your needs. But you can't attack them. What'll happen is people usually can see if there's a flavor of how you respond to your negative reviews versus your positive reviews. If you only have, a handful of negative reviews and a bucket full of good reviews, they're going to look at the negative reviews and go, okay, they handled those. That's fine. That happens.
Right.
In business. and I don't know about you, but I normally sort the reviews from lowest to highest. I read like the 3 lowest, and then I go back and read the top 3 and say, okay, this gives me a flavor of what's going on here.
Yeah, I know that like when I look at reviews online, I do also take into consideration of the other, like, because I notice on some services you can click on a person who left a review and see other reviews they left, and I'm able to be like, okay, this person complains about everything. Like,
Yes.
they're just somebody who you can't make happy. I'm not trusting this review, right? And so unless they only go on there when they have a bad experience, which sometimes seems like every time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So Janice, obviously Google and Yelp are not the only 2 places that people can and do leave reviews. And so people might be wondering where is the best place for them to leave reviews for others or to ask people to review them? Is there a cookie cutter answer for that?
I don't know that I would call it cookie cutter, but it's a way to select. You want to know, where do my ideal clients come from? And if you don't know what an ideal client is, I'm sure Barbara can help you with that, or you can reach out to me. But you're looking at, where do the majority of my ideal clients from? Do I get a ton from Facebook? Or does my business send them from LinkedIn? Or I'm in the interior design field and they all come from the house applications. So it's really knowing where your clients come from is where you want to send your customers to review. And part of that's part of your follow-up process. Hopefully, most everybody in the field has a process where when a client has completed a transaction, you thank them for the transaction and say, if you had a really good experience, we'd be happy if you would write us a review on LinkedIn. Or, thank you very much. Please join our friends on Yelp and leave us a review if that's where your clients are. So it's really about, where do your clients look for you? If you don't know, if you're still finding out, then let's put them on Google. Google's always safe because, like I said earlier on, when you're looking for information about a business, that little bit of information that comes up on the right side about a business, or when you get the list of businesses in a map and you click on it and look it over, that's what your Google listing is. So it's going to show how many reviews you have with how many average stars, and that's a good way to get it. Once you know where your ideal client comes from, then we can move you to the platform that makes maybe more sense. But Google's always safe as a starting point.
Okay, good. Now, I would just want to throw out there too, anybody who's watching this live, remember that you may ask Janice questions. So put it in the comments. I'm looking right now. I see a few people checking and saying hello, but there are no questions yet. So if you have questions about Google, Yelp, reviews, relationship management, your online presence, any of that stuff, feel free to put that into the chat, and we'll make sure that Janice answers it. But Janice, here's another question. There are so many reputation management companies out there that will call and say, I'll try to sell you a reputation management service and say, hey, I could get you on 100 listings and here's my price. And is that something that people should say yes to, or what should they be cautious of?
Anybody who tells them they want to put them on 100 listing services, I would say no. Early on, that's what reputation management's used to do. And actually, this was a quote from my article the other week, is, it seemed to make sense because it created SEO, because they're all linked to your website and it's organic SEO and they're all pointing to you, all these things. What happens though is, what if you change your hours? Now you have 100 or more places to go change your hours. Or in my case, in my previous business, when I had a brick and mortar, I moved across the street and I had to go correct 100 locations. Yeah, most of that SEO does not help you. It just does not help you. So the reasons are, you want to pick probably at the most 10 listing services to be on. You want to look at your industry. There might be a couple of industry specific things that you might, so like if you're in the trades, there's Angie's List and Advisor and a couple other things that are very industry specific. that might add a couple to your list versus a restaurant or that kind of thing that might have other locations. But you want to be on where 80% of your business comes from. So the old 80-20 rule, yes, there's going to be 20% that come from other situations, but if 80% of your audience comes from 3 locations, then just be on 3 locations.
Okay.
That incremental price you got to pay to get that other 20% usually is never worth the difference of adding the next listing service.
Okay. So somebody asked in the comments says my life ? And I'm trying to figure out if this is a listing service that she's asking about. And she says, which list? I'm not sure if that rings a bell to you. I don't know if my life is a service or not.
My life is one of those tools that aggregates data about people. If you can ignore it and get away from it, I would get away from it. Some of those aggregation services are kind of scary. There's a couple of them that I'm like, why is my information there and how can I get rid of it? My life is one of those that I'm like, why is this out here? If you can get it deleted, because I haven't ever seen any value from it myself. And I've done lots and lots of audits in the last year. And I've seen people come up on it, and usually it's information from so long ago. It's like, okay, this is actually going to hurt me versus help me. Not that it was negative, but because the data was so old, it was like, what does this mean? And it was inconsistent. It's kind of like having that Facebook page that you built in 2012, but you never posted to it. It makes you look like you don't exist.
Yeah.
So it's better to delete it so that people don't look at your Facebook page and they find you somewhere else.
Yes, for sure. Okay. Thank you for that question, Robin. I'm sorry that I didn't fully understand it. I'm glad that Janice understood what the question was. So we have a few more minutes here before we're going to jump off. So if anyone has any more questions, make sure you put them in there. Janice, I want to make sure that you get your contact information out there. So can you give us the best ways that people could reach you?
Well, so the easiest thing is you can Google Marketing with JR, get my Google business listing, which will give you a link to my website, which will give you my phone number, so you can get that information. I do have a Facebook business page, which is Marketing with JR. And an email is Janice at marketing, this is the tricky part, -with-jr.com. I apologize for the dashes, but some guy in Australia has the one without the dashes, but he hasn't updated it in so long. And I tried real clever. I had .solutions for a while. People kept trying to put .solutions.com. And I'm like, no. Nobody's used to that, the new .reviews, .info, whatever. And it was like, okay, I got to go back to .com and I'll have to live with dashes.
Right, for sure. Okay, so somebody responded on here to your response about my life. Looks like there's a fee to delete their listing. Do you know the fee or?
I don't know off the top of my head. If the information is incorrect, they can't charge you to do that. There's a legal reason why, you could say you have to delete it. If it's legitimately accurate information and they have a fee, I'll have to look into that further because that's a new one on me.
Okay, good. Thank you for those of you who are watching live and those of you who might be watching later, but thanks for participating as well. Janice, I know that one of the things that you offer is an online presence self-audit checklist. Funny enough, I also offer a type of an online presence audit. I know that what you and I offer are different, even though they have a similar name. So I'd like you to be able to share a little bit about what that entails too.
So just walking you through the step. So normally if I do the audit for you, I normally charge $500 because it takes me hours to do it. But the checklist will walk you through what I would do myself to audit you so that you can do it on your own. And it's looking for some online things, and then also has 5 items that looks at your website as well. so we can do that. I actually have to make it auto download. I have not done that yet.
Okay, so if somebody's interested in getting a copy of that self-audit checklist or having you do their audit for them and paying for it, would they do that? Would they request it on your website or email you, or what's the best way to do
For
that?
now, email me, but because of this conversation, I will make a version available on the website to download. There's so many things that you're like, oh, I should do this in my business and I should do that. So that's like on my to-do list. So we'll just make it a priority now.
All right, sounds good. So Janice, because I know you and love you so much, and I've had you on my stage multiple times, I feel comfortable trying new things with you. So there's a couple of things that I just want to test out while I have a guest. And the first one is a visual, and so I want to see if it shows up. This is something I might start doing something with in the future. It just came in today, so I was like, oh, perfect, because Janice is my guest. So today my guest was Janice Means. So this is a cool little light. I noticed that when I turn the light on, it makes the writing go away. But how cool is this, first of all?
That's cool.
And so the second thing that I wanted to test out is more of an audio. And so I was trying to think of something fun. Like if you watch like some of the late night shows and stuff, sometimes they have like fun segments that they do regularly that when the segment comes up, you know that, oh, this is going to be fun because I know what the segment is. So I can't wait till this person does it. So I'm working on getting fun segments on the Barbara Talks Business podcast. And while I don't have a name for this one yet, I want to ask just a this or that type of question to get to know the guest a little more. Okay. So this is the first time doing this on my show, Janice. So you are my guinea pig.
I'm game.
All right. So Janice, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. And do you have a certain flavor of tea that you like, or just regular old Lipton?
Well, I prefer iced tea, and Lipton Black is fine.
Okay, perfect. Now, do you load it up with sugar or anything else?
I put artificial sweetener in it.
Okay, good. How about honey? Do you throw honey or lemon in there?
Lemon is good, not at home. When I'm out, well, okay. When we used to be able to go to a restaurant and they could put lemon in your tea, I would take the lemon in your tea.
Okay, nice. And then, okay, how about this? Summer or winter?
Oh, summer.
Why?
I don't like being cold.
Same. Summer for me too. Okay, dogs or cats?
If I'm going to own them, cats. If I'm going to go to somebody's house and want to pet them, a dog.
Oh,
because cats usually are standoffish, although all my cats used to think they were dogs. So if I go to somebody's house, that dog's like, oh, you're new, pet me. Where the cat's like, screw you.
Yes. Okay, that's fun. Yeah. I have both one dog and one cat, and my cat likes to pretend like she doesn't like us, but somehow she's always right in the same room as us all the time.
Exactly.
So, do you have any pets at home right now or no?
No longer. We had to put our old lady down last May.
Oh, last week?
May.
Oh, last May. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. What was she? What kind of dog?
It was a cat.
Okay.
We had rescued her from a farm. She was going to be taken to a shelter, and so we took her in. And the people who we got her from didn't really own her. They moved into a rental property, and the previous owner had left these two cats behind. So we took one of them. So we had no idea how old she was, and we had her for over 17 years. So she was old, It was
yeah. Tough. Yeah, she did. 17 years. That's a long time. She was an old lady. Okay, so that little segment is kind of like a this or that segment where it's just getting to know people a little bit. So if anybody who's watching or listening has a fun name that I can give that, I don't want to just call it this or that, even though that's what it is. Obviously, my name's Barbara, and this is the Barbara Talks Business podcast. So if you have ideas to make it fun and relate to that, then let me know. And then one other small little segment I want to try out on you as well, Janice, is this is like a favorite section. So just asking a couple questions about favorites. So for instance, Janice, I will ask you, what is your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple, that was easy enough. What shade of purple?
A little darker than what you're seeing on the screen. Well, it depends what your monitor looks like, what shade of purple you're getting, but towards the top, because I have it fading out in there, but a darker purple.
Okay, very nice, like a deep color. Okay, and then what's your favorite flavor?
Oh, that one is really hard. Like flavor of what?
Let's do ice cream.
Usually butter pecan, but if you get to one that has toasted coconut, then I'm going to go toasted coconut. So it depends on where I'm at, what it's going to be. You know, what's my choices?
Yeah,
butter pecan.
Very nice. All right. Now, do you like doing those seasonal flavors like the pumpkin spice or peppermints and stuff like that?
Peppermint's good. No pumpkin spice. No pumpkin spice anything.
All right, good. So again, with that segment, I'm looking for a fun name to do. Like if I ask people certain favorite questions, obviously they won't be the same questions for every guest, but just trying to get to know the guest on a level that is more than what's just in their bio or in the casual conversation of business. Because I think that as we get to know each other better, we can build relationships that are more meaningful. So one last time before I jump off of here, I want to make sure there's no further questions.
Can I jump in? Well, if you got a question, we'll answer it. But I have 3 questions for people to listen for to refer to me.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you hear a business owner complaining that their customers are saying your map pin is taking me to the wrong location, why is it ended up in the wrong location? That's probably something I can help them find, because their map pin in Google may be right, but maybe on Yahoo Maps or another tool, it might be wrong, and we should be able to find that tool to fix it. Another one is my customers are complaining that I don't answer my 800 number, and I haven't had an 800 number in 5 years. Where are they finding this 800 number? And then the third one is customers are complaining my hours are wrong on my website, and my website brand new. I just paid a lot of money and it's accurate. Why are they telling me my hours are wrong? Those 3 questions are things that I can help with and help them find what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Janice, you mentioned earlier, just very casually, you said something about B&I questions. Are you a member of a B&I chapter right now?
I am in Mundelein.
Which one?
It's called Networkers Plus in Mundelein, Illinois.
Okay. So I am part of the Mokina, Illinois chapter, People Helping People.
Oh!
And so, I wonder if this counts as something for us. Like,
I don't know. Maybe it does, but I know a lot of people in your chapter.
Yeah, I'll bet, because it is out there close to you. This week is the regional event. Which day does your group meet? Is it on Friday?
So my chapter normally meets on Tuesday, so we're doing our normally Tuesday meeting, but we're going to go on February 11th.
Oh, okay. That's next week then?
Yeah. I know the southern chapters are going 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and the northern chapters are going the 10th and 11th. But of course, any of the guests hearing this, if it's before then, could go to any one of those days.
Yeah. So yeah, if you are listening to this is kind of a BNI plug. BNI is a networking group for business owners. It does have quite a pricey cost to get involved, but I'll tell you the ROI is phenomenal. Like at first you're like, oh my goodness, that's a high cost, but then you get in and people start sending you business and referring you, and it's just amazing. It's like I was able to recoup my cost very quickly, as I imagine most people do. So don't let that cost scare you away, but it is free to visit. So if you would like to visit and get to know some other business owners, Janice's chapter meets on Tuesdays, mine meets on Thursdays. We're all still doing Zoom because of COVID, so you don't even have to leave your house or get dressed other than maybe throwing a shirt on. And then on Friday this week, and on the 11th for Janice, I think the 5th is mine, we're doing a regional event, which means it's more than just our chapter, it's multiple chapters, so you can meet more people. So if you are interested in any of that, just reach out to me or Janice and we can get you some information. And it looks like somebody commented something. So let me see if that's a question. What's really awesome, Janice, is those little segments we were doing, people were responding in the comments what their answers were and then commenting on what you were saying. So that was a cool, fun part. So I'm glad I thought of that. So Robin says, how can a business owner come? I believe she's talking about to the BNI. And then Robin, what we will do is if you reach out to either Janice or I, send one of us a private message on Facebook and we will send you a link to how you can get the information to join the Zoom call for these BNI meetings. Okay. And I'm super excited to have Janice on the call, the participants, and every week we'll be here. Barbara Talks Business is Tuesdays at 2:00. It is better to be here live so that you can ask questions of the guest while he or she is here. But if you don't happen to be able to catch us live, make sure you watch us on your favorite podcast platform. We are on all the major platforms. We also share this on all of our social media networks. If you find value in this, please share it with your network. There is a share button. Unfortunately, if you're watching this in the Facebook group, you cannot share it because it's a private group. In fact, there are some of you that you're paying for services and you get that group for free. So that's why it's a private group. But it is on our YouTube channel, which if you Google Fuse Empire, you can find us on YouTube and share it with your friends. If you know somebody who maybe is saying the things that Janice mentioned earlier, like, why are people finding this 800 number? Or why is my website got the wrong hours? And any of those other things or anything we talked about, send them the link and Janice's information. Janice, do you have anything else we didn't discuss that you want to make sure people know before we leave?
That's a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
We can go in my 5 tips, but we won't go there. We'll pick that for another day.
Do you have a video or something on that, the 5 tips?
I'll have to look to see because it's been a while since I did. I know that Engaging Speakers recorded one of them. So if you're part of Engaging Speakers, you might find one of those. I don't think that's open though.
Okay, so no worries. You know what? Maybe we do another podcast with you a couple months down the road and we do that topic. So tell us what the title of that one is, because all you said was 5 tips. People are like, 5 tips to what?
5 tips to make it easier to do business with you.
Ooh, 5 tips to make it easier to do business with you. So if you are watching this now or later and you're like, yes, I need to know that, tell me in the comments, because the more people that say yes, the sooner I'll make sure Janice gets on to do that. So if that sounds like something that would be helpful to you in your business, make sure that you use your voice in the comments. All right, Janice, thank you so much for being here and you have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much.